here to West Texas to spread her message. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Kathie Glass, Libertarian for Texas Governor. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, not a crony. I was born in Beaufort, Georgia. First person in my family to go to college, worked my way through college and law school. My father was a blue-collar worker for General Motors, a union man. My mother was a school secretary. And then on 7/7/77, I came to Texas. I met a good Aggie man from Odessa, Texas. We got married, been living in Houston, raised our family there. I practiced law, have my own law firm, and now we have a small ranch in Central Texas. And we thought we'd be retiring now, but things turned out differently. Instead, I'm running to be Texas governor.
Now, as you're running, what distinguishes you between well, let's start with first the Republican side. What would distinguish you in that area, at running?
I'm not a crony, and I want to unite Texans to fight two threats to our liberty: a tyrannical federal government with no one pushing back on them, but an out-of-control state government that's corrupted by cronyism. For 20 years, Texas has been ruled by Republicans. Every single statewide office holder has been a Republican. They've owned the House and the Senate and supermajorities at times. Yet we've got higher taxes, higher spending, more debt, the second highest per capita debt in the nation. We have an assault on our property rights through eminent domain. We have the cronies stealing our land and our water for their developments, things that they can't make a go of it in the free market. And we've got less privacy rights. And we got an unconstitutional federal government with nothing being done about it. So with my Republican opponent, he says that his hallmark, his claim to fame, the way he thinks you stand up to Washington, is he goes to the office, he sues the federal government, and he goes home. Well, how's that been working out for us? Does anyone think the federal government is afraid of a lawsuit? No, they win most of them and ignore the others. So I say, don't sue the buzzards, arrest them. If they're violating Texas law, arrest them. That's called nullification.
That's a very interesting approach. And how do you see Texas as being able to stand up to the federal government?
I see Texas as the only force that is potent enough to stand up to a federal bully. But we just got to have the right leadership. We've got to have a plan, and we've got to unite and pull together. We've done this before. That's why on my tour bus I say resist federal tyranny again. We've done it before, different circumstances, but the principles are the same. And if Texas doesn't do it, then, well, Ronald Reagan said America is freedom's last stand. I agree, and I add, Texas is America's last stand.
What are your positions on your basic like abortion, gun rights, things like that the Texans care about?
I'm pro-life, pro-gun.
Kathie, how does nullification work?
Well, when you're talking about nullifying unconstitutional federal acts, we're in a target-rich environment. But I say we need to pick our battles wisely. Pick things that Texans can know, that's in their hearts, in their guts, that this is wrong, what the federal government is doing, and we'll unite and push back on them. So let's say that they come for our guns, and they get this, maybe it's an executive order from the president. But then they run it through the courts, and the Supreme Court says, oh, they can do that. Well, we're not going to accept the word of the Supreme Court. They have shown us that they do not enforce the Constitution. And we can't rely on it. Nothing in the Constitution says that the Supreme Court is the only or the final arbiter of what is or is not constitutional. We know that the attempt to grab our guns is unconstitutional. And our constitutional county sheriffs would say, no, you're not coming in my county and doing this. The beauty of nullification, the power of nullification, is that we act together as a state. And it's not just the federal government coming in and taking one person's guns away from them, trapping him and trying to have a showdown with him. No, we tell them that if you come into Texas and do that to one of our citizens, you're messing with Texas. The entire state will stand up against what's going on. So that's just one way it could work. One way it could have worked is a few summers ago we had a special session where they were going to pass a law from our Texas legislature making it illegal for the TSA to do their gropings at the airport. Well, it's already illegal, but okay, this was at least an attempt to make a statement, a position, carve out our position as a state about what we thought. It failed because the Republican-controlled legislature didn't want it. And they have so many gimmicks and ways to kill bills that at the same time seeming to want to do what the people want. But that would have been a simple thing that everybody could have seen. So it starts out with a proclamation of some kind. Maybe a resolution or a law passed by the legislature. Maybe something from the governor, a proclamation. Maybe something like that, just a declaration. This law is unconstitutional. It's null and void. We won't allow it to be enforced in Texas. And if you try, you're likely violating Texas law, and we will arrest you and prosecute you. Now, how many times would this have to be done before the federal bully gets the message and backs off? I don't know. But it's what we have to do. It's what we have to do. It's what we should have been doing all along. And we have no other alternative.
When I was viewing Texas politics from afar, I noticed that Rick Perry did a lot of chest thumping, and he did a lot of things said a lot of things that would appeal to a Texan. But in the end, he didn't really act on that.
Exactly.
Whether it was federal pressure, national pressure, how are you going to be different than someone who just, runs to the right and says, and when I say right, I mean runs to Texas, in the hearts of Texans. And then, when they get into office, they govern differently.
Well, you're exactly right that the Republicans know exactly what Texans want. They know how to frame it, how to phrase it, how to make them think that I'm like you, we have shared values. But it's just talk. And that's why they've stayed in power for 20 years in Texas. But that's also why we've not gotten anywhere. We've lost a lot of liberty in that time. So I don't just say the things that I hear them say. I propose different solutions for the things, such as the border. I wrote Governor Perry in 2010 saying, don't beg the federal government to come secure the border. You're commander-in-chief of our Texas military. You use the state guard and take it down there to the border to assist local law enforcement to enforce Texas law against trespass and other crimes. And now he has his National Guard coming to the border, but I call that Operation Photo Op. Again, he's just seeming to respond to what the people want, but the reality is nothing's getting done. And I also propose other solutions that he's not touching, the Republicans aren't touching. I'm saying Texas should make these decisions. Ayn Rand said the key question in any dispute is who decides. And in all these problems and challenges we have, it's who's going to decide, whether it's the Ebola crisis or the immigrant children. Who decides? And I say, in all instances, it should be Texas that decides. These are state law matters. And so that's why I say we should craft a Made for Texas guest worker program. We've had it in times past. It worked pretty well, but we keep waiting on Washington to fix this broken immigration system, and it doesn't want to. It never will. So if you do those two things, I'm for solving problems. I don't want just an issue that I can run on and maybe get elected on. I want to solve problems and increase our liberty and stop this threat to our liberty. So I want to get a welcoming guest worker program, which I would call a special session for the legislature if I had to get it through. And I would say, you can come and work here. We have a few rules that we feel very strongly about, and if you'll agree to them, then you're good with us. We said, you need a job, and you need to agree that you won't seek or accept any taxpayer-funded services, that you will get a driver's license, that you will get car insurance. And we take care of all those things, and then you're good. Now, if you had that sort of open and safe way to come here and work, who wouldn't choose that? I'll tell you who wouldn't, the people who aren't here to work. The people who are coming to do us harm. If they persist in coming in the dangerous way, the illegal way, trespassing, then we know what kind of people they are and we know how to deal with them.
We are back with gubernatorial candidate for the Libertarian Party for Texas, Kathie Glass. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about how you came up with your 5-point plan.
Well, I thought about what Texas really wants, what we need. We have a federal government that's broken. Washington is broken, I say, and the two-party system is corrupt. But the day is coming when Washington's not just broken, but totally collapsed. You can't have a $17 trillion, what is it today, 18 trillion deficit or debt without having a collapse at some point. And when that happens, it will take with it things that Texas has come to rely on, like almost 35% of our budget comes from the federal government. And other things, we've given up control and let them make decisions for us that we never should have done in the first place. So I had this plan. I said, we need a plan, though, for when the hard times come. How does Texas stand strong and free and not go down with that sinking ship? So my 5-point plan, or my plan for Texas independence, is the way I came up with that. Things we need to do as soon as we can and get mentally prepared to do if the collapse comes much more rapidly than I'm thinking it might.
And so the 5-point plan, tell me a little bit about what it is.
Well, it's the same budget, fiscal sanity. I say slash the budget 50%, taxes and spending. And that does sound like very extreme to some people, and I just remind them that will put us back where we were as a state when Rick Perry first took office, which was only 14 years ago. Seems like an eternity, I know, but it really is 14 years. We doubled the cost and the size of our state government. And we can do this by focusing on 2 big ticket items, and there's a whole lot of smaller things that can be thrown into the mix too. But one, we can opt out of Medicaid, not Medicare, Medicaid. That's a program where we have to go 50-50 with the federal government, paying the expenses, but they call all the shots. Our only decision we can make about that is, are you in or are you out? And I say we can't afford it. It's bankrupting us. We got to get out. But we can, and that is like 26 or 28% of our budget, one item. Now we could opt out and we could take those savings and not just it wouldn't be a dollar for dollar savings, because we would take that money and craft our own program, what we want for Texans. But it wouldn't be nearly as expensive, and we would make the decisions ourselves. Again, we've got to start making these decisions. I'm sure we would end up with a better product at a lower price. So that's the sort of thing that I would do. I would use the line item veto, a very powerful tool the Texas governor has. Even the president doesn't have that power. But you only hear about it in the news when our governor has used it as payback to his political enemies. He never uses it for its honorable and intended purpose to cut the budget, to keep spending in line. And that's how I would use it. And that's how one person, if you're Texas governor, can get us into our fiscal house in order.